Welcome everyone to our 2026 Mainnet Anniversary. It is our 5-year anniversary celebration. Thank you all for joining us. I'm here with Gene Hoffman. Welcome, Gene. How are you today?
Doing just great. Thank you, man.
Today is our 5-year anniversary. Um, what do you would you like to give us like a state of the chain of kind of where we're at over the last year, kind of the latest updates, if you would?
Sure. Absolutely. So, I think, first of all, it's really fun to reflect on being 5 years from getting up at 6 and 5 a.m. and launching a blockchain. It's been a wild ride. And I think that there's kind of an overarching statement of that, I think in many ways we have had perfectly bad luck at times. But at the same time, this community and this endeavor has persevered and has started to build some of the most amazing things possible. And so when instead I look kind of back across March to March, last March to this March, I think the thing that's going to have the most impact, both short and medium term, is Bermuda. Bermuda is just a really exciting opportunity. I joke that we decided we had to create our best customers so that the rest of our customers could understand what we could do for them. And for those of you who don't know Bermuda well, the core first product is the idea of taking large cap stocks and splitting them into their dividend and everything else, and then trading those separately, both on the New York Stock Exchange and on the Chia blockchain. And, we were very optimistic that we would start trading basically late summer last year. And as many know, the SEC said, we love it, but we have worries about someone else going this path that you're on. We'd like you to switch to a different path, the 40 Act path, and that will be something we'll give you what you need and get you going. And then of course we hit the longest federal government shutdown ever, right as we were having that conversation. But the good news is that the SEC continues to be completely businessman-like, and I expect that after some of the various internal timelines, you will see Bermuda ACDCs trading for Microsoft and Broadcom, especially in the very near term. There are other things we're doing at Bermuda. Some of those will be talked about here in the next few weeks, and it's really starting to highlight what you can do with ACs and DCs and at scale. The Chia blockchain makes it so that administering these and like building exchange traded products becomes just dramatically cheaper and easier. And I think it's one of the themes you will see over the next 12 to 18 months is that using Bermuda, we've brought in a new customer base that we haven't necessarily talked about yet because they themselves are about to launch and want to basically be the people who announce their products. But it's really giving an environment where you can make a market in anything. It is that one market concept. You have the tools to be able to issue, to be able to redeem, to manage corporate actions, to comply with securities laws, to run a commodity, to making markets. It's all the things you need to really build a kind of global 24/7 market that's fully compliant with laws and practices around the world. Now, the other big thing that's going on right now and has really developed over the last year is Cloud Wallet and Chia Signer. Um, I think that those of us in the Chia community who get to play with this understand how powerful it really is, but it isn't even really unlocked all the things you can do with it. I mean, today, being able to use your phone as your actual private key, the secure element in iPhone and in just a few weeks Android as well, is a really powerful tool. And by having this break between your signing keys and your inventory and assets, your identity and everything else, it really lets you do cool new things. And again, for those who don't know, I'm going to recap for people in the Chia community. When you, excuse me, create a cloud wallet, you create a key in your secure element of your iPhone. Getting that out takes millions of dollars. It's doable, but it's a NSA activity that people aren't going to spend time on. And there's still some attack vectors that people could force you to use your Touch ID or your Face ID. But most people are also securing their brokerage firm account and their bank account with exactly the same tools. But the idea is that look, your phone, it's now locked to your phone, so only your phone can sign a message. Well, what happens when you lose your phone? That's more common, frankly, than somebody stealing it from you. You have a recovery key, and that is 24 words and or a YubiKey. There's going to be all sorts of options there, and the idea is that you set that up and you say, "Hey, look, anyone with access to this key in 12 hours can recover and change to a new phone." But the nice thing about it is, during those 12 hours, if you've still got your phone, you're getting notifications that someone else tried to steal your money. By making this so easy to see and understand and for normal people to actually use and using a pattern that kind of fits the other things they do in their life. It's not uncommon. Well, frankly, banks should catch up with this, but it's the ability to actually self-custody. And as we are about to announce additional partners that are recovery agents, we're going to have institutions like banks and others who specialize in storing things on behalf of others and making it really easy to do things like administrate a will. The nice thing about a cloud wallet is you can do two different things. If you want to do it kind of self-serve, you can create yet another recovery key that is different from your primary recovery key. That's coming, not available in the interface right yet, but totally part of what we can do. And you can literally put that key in your wallet, in your will. If someone tries to use it, then of course you'll be notified and you will cancel that and you'll go back and find out who stole your will and tried to take your money. But you also might just choose to use a bank because banks are very used to like an executor coming to them after someone has died and saying, "Hey, I need access to that safe deposit box or I need access to this account." And there's an entire legal process that works. And if the bank has that recovery key that they use, then all of a sudden, you have no issues. And this also extends to things like custody for institutions. Bank of New York has made a huge business in doing this, and we expect the same sort of thing to happen, where instead of only the bank controlling it, you're now using the bank as the backup in case you do something wrong or you make a mistake. It's pretty powerful stuff, and that's before you get into the kind of enterprise and institutional use where it's vaults of vaults. So, I have a vault and my CFO has a vault and Bram has a vault, and any two of us can authorize sending, or, and if all three of us authorize sending, it might even send faster. So these are the kind of the neat things you can do with Cloud Wallet and Vault. And I think it's going to take the launch of Bermuda and some of our other customers for people to really see how powerful this is and how it finally breaks one of the scariest things about using blockchains, which is loss or theft. It's going to be very hard to lose. It's also going to be very hard to steal. Now, moving on, this Bermuda or the customers and others kind of puts pressure on, hey, how many TPS do you have? Now, we're excited because we believe we have plenty of TPS for the foreseeable future, the next, certainly 12 to 24 months. But in that direction, Bram has come up with a kind of first step, a small step, but it creates something really cool, which is Chia Gaming or Chia State Gaming. So the neat thing about Chia Gaming, it's especially focused on what I would call short-term games. So types of poker, variants of Wordle, folks are even stretching it to like Battleship. But the idea is that you play around and you update each other's kind of bets. And this is all for money. It is peer-to-peer. There's no casino, no rake. Therefore, it's pretty much playable anywhere on the planet. Technologically, it's definitely playable anywhere on the planet. You simply need access to some Chia. And it lets you have a trustworthy peer-to-peer game that can absolutely have no one cheat. Even cheating isn't necessarily the worst problem. The bigger problem is sometimes people just go offline. And so what you can do is actually just revert to the state of the bets right before the new game, and that's now a like 1 minute process back on the Chia blockchain. But when you're playing, it's as fast as any Web2 application can be. So you can take a round as fast as you want to go, play as many rounds as you want, as long as you want. If it's somebody and you want to play with them again tomorrow night, you might just leave the state channel open. But if you're done playing tonight, you go and settle on the chain, and usually both of you agree on what that is. And a minute later, your balances are both exactly what they should be after you've played gaming all day. We are hoping to exit alpha here very shortly. I know Bram and his LLM buddies have been hard at work, and so we're pretty excited about that. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. Um, the other thing we're really excited about, and I'll back up. Before we launched the Chia blockchain, there were two really big places where we had new math here. Not the only places, but the two primary ones, and that was proof of space and proof of time. And as often happens sometimes, the world was just ready for proof of time. There were a whole bunch of different teams and different academics and different cryptographers all thinking about time lock cryptography right then and there. And so it sparked a real interest, and we ran contests to find ways to optimize and kind of attack those algorithms. And because it had sparked the global consciousness, we saw really good results. And so since then, proof of time has really not been able to be optimized whatsoever beyond what we did by actually generating hardware ASICs that are out in production. I think a lot of people don't know it, but like we're the only real project that runs a production proof of time, especially on ASIC hardware at a very fast rate. And the neat thing about the ASICs is it's kind of hard to speed them up. There's probably maybe 10% out there speed ups, not like 50%. And so that's what's key about it. But proof of space was just difficult enough that it didn't really get a lot of people going, I know how to fix that or crack that. And so, in many ways, the first 4 years of the Chia blockchain was a running bounty on can you make proof of space not perform like it should. Now, it was never a security issue. It was more that we wanted to make sure that 1 terabyte, one vote was the key item. And folks had figured out how to get it down to about a quarter terabyte, one vote. And that wasn't great. But by learning from that and bringing some board some of the best folks in our community to rebuild a proof of space 2.0, we've got something that we think is really powerful and is going to stand the test of time. It's going to be a lot easier to use. There were certain trade-offs we made with the previous one that we don't have to make anymore. And so, things like lightly trusted pools that run on your iPhone and actually take the unused space you have on your iPhone or your Android and maybe donates it to the Red Cross. These are now things you really can do with Proof of Space 2.0. So moving forward, we're very excited, and in fact, may get the total kind of cost and energy of a farmer farming down below its best time ever, even on the 5 year previous Chia blockchain. So really exciting stuff. But that brings me to the other thing I really want to talk about, which is, you know, the crypto market has not been friendly to us and everyone else at various different times. Whether we like it or not, I don't think it has much of a reflection directly on what we're up to, but it certainly hurts. But even while it hurts, folks like the Tang Gang and others in our community continue to build, to educate, to create new things. The energy and participation of our communities are just amazing. And so I want to walk through some of the things that are happening, and we'll go more in depth later. But, first of all, we're really excited about what Notbot is doing from Julia Social. Being able to attack AI slop, being able to attack identity in privacy protecting ways is really powerful. And it's also something that there's real enterprise demand for. And we're excited about some of the things I think you're going to hear from Julia Social over the next 2 months about who's using it, how they're using it, and why, and how it's pretty uniquely only available in the Chia blockchain to do it the right way, the way that it's privacy protecting, the way that you only disclose the amount of information about you that you absolutely have to, and not more. These are kind of the important pieces. And really, it's the first real implementation of what the future of digital identity should really look like. I'll also point out Silicon.net, who has sold their first H100 to the public and is now running a pool for that. We're talking about real dollar yields in the 15 to 25% range. We've seen 18 to 20% generally, and this is really leveraging the LLM demand for training on GPUs. By being able to kind of pick up the best of the rest from a GPU perspective, they're doing an interesting aggregation play ultimately. So, yes, Amazon and Microsoft and others are going to be able to buy directly, but being able to build a real pool of capacity that isn't necessarily in that channel is pretty powerful, and passing the earnings on directly to any interested community member is a really fascinating model. And, we hear good things about their inbound interest and their kind of move forward plan. I also would be totally remiss if I didn't talk about CircuitDAO and Bytecash. So we believe that CircuitDAO is maybe the very best stablecoin, programmatic stablecoin implementation ever. Over collateralized stablecoins have stood the test of times on other blockchains, and they have just exited beta in the last week or two. The other thing to note is they're about to do an airdrop, and you should go to their Discord and make sure you're involved. But it looks to be the second largest airdrop ever, the first being Uni itself. So it's a pretty exciting time for them, and it's very powerful to have a uncensorable dollar stable coin that you can also use to, for example, put your XCH to work. Now, obviously, there are some risks to this because you've got to stay over collateralized. But, if you think the price of XCH is too low and you've got a bunch of XCH, you can go and convert to BYC stablecoin and use that to buy more XCH on leverage. And, if it goes your way, that's going to be a big win. But, obviously, be careful out there. It is a risky investment on the ability to be liquidated. But the ability to store dollar value and move it globally without the risk of seizure or locking or any of those sorts of things is a pretty powerful tool. And we're excited to be the blockchain of choice for that. Now, WeSo Forge was this very interesting, and I don't want to call it a weekend project because it's more than that. But the idea was that the way proof of time works, the Time Lords generate this proof in near real time that's kind of hard to confirm later. So it takes a little bit of time to confirm, but you could compact those. And so one of our community members who's been involved since the absolute start certainly took his skills, but he really leveraged LLMs as well to figure out how to massively speed up the ability for everyone to go in what's called blue box time order, just taking these original proofs of times and recreating them in a smaller package so that they're both physically smaller and they're easier to validate if you're syncing from scratch. He then gamified that with a leaderboard, and this community responded like crazy. We had a tremendous amount of compute in just a few weeks, and what should have been like a 5 or 6 week progress took like 2.5 weeks. So shout out to Elon and what he did there, and it really goes to kind of one of my other points that I wanted to make today, which is one of the things that's really changed in just the last 60 days is the capability and viability of the LLMs to do coding related activities. And that has a lot of impacts. One impact is I think you're going to see C&I move faster. We're able to do a lot more with about the same amount of resources, and that's exciting. But it also means that some of the difficulties of understanding the coin model and Chia Lisp, the advent of Roo and how well the LLMs understand Roo, you're at a place where with some simple skills, and we'll be making those more available to everybody, you can step up and write a Chia application that does what you want it to do, test it, and it'll work. And we think that's going to be pretty powerful. Now, you still need to be careful. And, that's one of the things around the skills is teaching them what the ins and outs of CLVM and the risks are. But that's also something they're very good at once taught. And so I'm really excited about the impact that's going to have. I think it's going to really allow us to accelerate a lot of things and also round off some rough edges. There's certainly things like being able to run a Time Lord on a Mac or a Windows box that you just couldn't do. And, I was able to kind of knock that out one Saturday afternoon because it was there and easy to do. And, it's being able to make the stuff just that much easier, that much more user friendly in places where that really wasn't worth spending a lot of core developer time on. But, my 20% time, that was perfectly acceptable. So we're just excited about the impact there. And I think you're really going to see it. And, watching Bram check in a ton of code, even though he has to kind of yell at LLMs for being stupid at times, which they are, it's really changed his ability to speedily deliver all sorts of new content infrastructure. And so just really excited about it across the board. The last thing I want to do, it's kind of my last little bit, is I think everybody's been excited about, who is the gaming RFP selection. And today I'm happy to announce that is Kobo 42, and that is the partnership, or at least the joint venture with Drac and Mr. Davis. And we're really excited about that. We've seen Mr. Davis out there doing really cool new games. They've got some things they're kind of, peeking out at folks, demoing, and it's exciting times. We're very excited about their capabilities, and we're excited to partner with them to really help us get gaming out to the broader community. And exciting times on that. I think you'll see a lot more from them over the next 2 months. So with that, I'll turn it back. I think it's been an amazingly wild ride, and I think if anything, what I would say is we have gotten so much well done, well built, and ready that there's a few things that are going to happen that are really going to accelerate things.
Thanks, Gene. Yeah, I think it's really great that we have seen a lot of advancement in the community development, which is kind of the theme for this year's celebration is really celebrating our community developers and the projects that they're doing. So I'm glad that you called some of them out. We'll hear from some of them in a little bit as well. We have a video to show. But for now, I'd like to invite Vishal and Bram on, and we're going to do a little bit of a roundtable discussion with you three, talking about just the last 5 years, reflecting on it, where Chia has been, how it's evolved, um, and and yeah. So when you think about kind of where Chia started 5 years ago, when launching Mainnet, and even before that, when the company started, can you reflect a bit on where it was, where it is now, and that evolution?
Um, yeah, so 5 years ago, we were already quite far along because it had been 4 years of development to ship the chain, right? So we started with basically just having a roadmap, a sketch of here's what we're going to build from a consensus standpoint. And that did not actually include any specifics of like how the on-chain programming environment would work. It just said do something better. We didn't know what that was. So we spent 4 years building that and came up with kind of a coherent vision for everything and actual implementation of the core consensus stuff. And so we shipped that and it worked. It's still working. Um, so that's a major achievement, especially it's really a big deal. People don't realize how basically all the chains other than like Bitcoin, have stopped using proof of work. They've just switched over to proof of stake. And now they're feeling the pain because now they're spending all their time in endless political battles trying to keep proof of stake from completely taking over the system. Um, while we are on a proof of work-ish thing, this truly decentralized thing, and our coin price has gone down, and yet our security is still doing just fine. So this is actually a demonstration of how fundamentally sound the consensus algorithm we're using is. Uh, so on a purely technical level, things actually have been holding up pretty well. We have had this issue since then that there were issues with our proof of space algorithm. So we've been working on fixing those, and those are very close to getting shipped with our proof of space 2. Or Chia 3 that we're pushing out soon. So we're getting the polish done on that right now, have actually worked out the proof of space algorithm, doing final implementation. Um, and actually, the bottleneck on that right now is the sheer number of security improvements we're trying to get crammed in while we're at it. The so that's looking very exciting. I mean, as exciting as here's a big fat security improvement can be. That's the nature of security. It's only exciting when it's failing, not when it's succeeding. But that's looking very good. Um, and then the bigger arc has been over what does this do? How does it work? Right? And this is something which the crypto industry as a whole has been failing at pretty hard, actually, of what is this actually good for? And I am always constantly beating of the drum of we should work on basic custody more because that's important. And of course, service providers don't really like providing better basic custody because you can either spend some amount of time making a crappy centralized, trust me, custody solution and charge people for it, or you could spend more time and effort building much better self-custody solution and give it away for free. And so obviously people prefer the former, even though the latter is a better way of doing things. So we're working on the latter. Uh, be, business being what it is, we have not yet managed to prioritize up that actually happening just quite yet. We do have a good solution. It's not the solution we want to have. But also in terms of just the broad swath of how does this work, what does it do? This general vision of truly distributed financial tokenization and what that's good for with like Permuto. And then also real smart contracts on chain. Although in Chia, those smart coins really. But I'm very, very excited about Chia Gaming, which I am very actively working on right this minute. Um, and that is kind of getting to be on the brink of actually shipping. And one thing I'm super happy with it is it actually motivates everything. Like if you start with here's how Chia Gaming works as something you're just walking through, the coin set model and basically everything we've done about how you program in Chia Lisp is very, very well motivated. It's very clear. This is why this works this way. This is how it does things. Um, and the thought of how would you do this on Solidity is terrifying. It's like, oh my God, we have to build a blockchain on top of a smart contract on top of a blockchain to do this in Solidity. This is a coin set actually totally makes sense in this collaborative view of how you do things. So we've kind of gone from at launch, at mainnet launch, from having a consensus algorithm. We had a database, this database that we have, to actually being on the cusp now of really providing a good answer of what is this database good for, which is not just an answer for us, it's an answer for crypto generally, which has just been utterly failing at answering this question.
Yeah, I just want to add, one of the things I like to think about is all the things we kind of don't talk about that work so well that we don't talk about them. And one of my favorite versions of that is the World Bank's Climate Action Data Trust. 99+% of the entire carbon market from inception to date is verified on the Chia blockchain, and that it gets updated every day. And it is in use to solve a real problem between real governments, Singapore, various other governments. It's a long, long list. I can't even remember, but it just works. And that's one of the things we don't see in the crypto environment. You see mass skepticism, and I think that skepticism is valid. But people once in a while wake up and go, "Wait, Chia's got a 5-year-old proof of time that works in production and is unstoppable." Yes, it's those kinds of things that I'm just really proud of. And as an entrepreneur, and Bram and I are always forward looking, and it's like, what's broken? What don't we have done yet? That's what you're focused on. But all the things that just work, I hope that that continues to build a bit of a buffer against the skepticism. We have delivered lots of the things that we've talked about, and they just work. And we are going to deliver these other things in this calendar year. It's going to be pretty powerful stuff.
If I could add something to that, it's interesting. We think about the term regulatory compliant within our company and our ecosystem as just a given. So when Gene talks about the World Bank, right, and we haven't talked about it in a long time, let's not lose sight of the fact that that's just an 18-month cycle after selection to make sure that everything that we know works and claimed that work was verified. It's now been 2+ years since that's working. It's been 2 years since we actively traded carbon credits for the IFC on our chain. So that while that was a proof of concept for the IFC, it was a global working financial instrument. So I just think that what both Gene and Bram are saying is this is a place for serious people, and there'll always be skepticism around that. But I just remain so encouraged, whether it's stuff I see in the ecosystem or the things that Gene has alluded to around Bermuda or what's coming after that. And that's just really exciting.
When you think about the kind of the developments that Chia has made in the last 5 years, if you could choose one that you're most proud of, what would it be? And Vishal, we'll start with you.
Well, so the ones that I'm most proud of are actually more internal, right? To actually create an enterprise grade infrastructure and platform that people can build on, right? So when Gene talks about Bermuda, there is an amazing amount of work that's done in the regulatory space with the SEC, in the financial market space to set that up. But to take a blockchain that is fundamentally secure, so this is not a claim, this is something that's been proved, has the kind of custody that Gene talked about at the top of this conversation, and then has real peer-to-peer trading. The fact that we have continued to not just make it more robust, but reach a level of abstraction where today, through just simple Web2 API calls, you can access this blockchain infrastructure. To me, that feels like the biggest achievement.
Yeah, for me, it's a tie. I can't really say which one's most. The first one is the Nakamoto coefficient that we achieved. Obviously, before proof of space broke down, we got into the hundreds of NC. And that is proves that you really can build a truly decentralized public blockchain to the point where I think we have about 1,000 nodes on Starlink. We've had a few nodes in Antarctica. There's really kind of not a place that there's humans that there aren't Chia farmers and Chia nodes. And I think we're going to get back there. That's just one of the really exciting things to me. And when you have that level of decentralization, you're not playing decentralization theater like most blockchains are. But the other one is the ease of use that Cloud Wallet and Chia Signer create. How it makes it so that you really can approach non-technical people and make them an approver on something, and they'll be comfortable with it. They won't screw it up if they basically follow instructions. So all of a sudden, we go from I'm really scared to lose my Bitcoin to I'm not at all worried about losing my Bitcoin. I'm not at all worried about losing my Chia. I'm perfectly excited about keeping my Apple ACs on chain and paying me cash into my wallet that I control. It is really about giving everybody that control in a way they can actually use it.
Graham, how about yourself? If you could
Um,
choose one thing that you're most proud of.
oh, well, gee, I don't want to be counting my chickens here. I think the things that I'm really want to be proud of aren't really shipping yet. So in terms of things that are you asked me to pick one thing. I mean, I can pick off, rattle off a list of our major projects here, and none of which I think I want to be bragging about right at this moment because they'll actually be there very, very soon, but are not right this minute. But the thing that's very top of mind for me right now, that very much falls in the category of I can't brag about it yet, is Chia Gaming. So I think very soon will be amazing and is not there yet. So that's where that is.
Sounds good. So
But
we
always
stay.
the close.
Yeah.
What has been the most difficult moment and in the last 5 years, and how was it overcome? Gene, we'll start with you.
Yeah, it certainly was the impact of FTX on our ability to raise money. It was not a decision we took lightly to have to be able to sell any of the pre-farm, uh, but that was in many ways awesome that we had done the planning to have this cushion to be able to get through a period of high skepticism and difficult fundraising environments, to come out the other side with real revenue, real products, real customers, and that's what's going to happen during this calendar year, and it's already happening. As I said, we have revenue customers we can't yet talk about. You'll be hearing about them soon, TM, to give you a sense. And so, it's those kinds of things that I think really matter. So it was having the foresight to know that we weren't sure how the world would work out, and having that strategic reserve was very strategic in this case.
Uh, yeah, man, there's been a lot of hard moments here. I think actually, ironically, the most traumatic for me was right after we launched. And then we had this problem of not having our pooling protocol ready yet because we didn't think we had to. And then it hit way faster than we wanted it to. And then, and so people were claiming I was the devil for not having had pooling protocol ready yet. And oh man, sometimes there are actually people out there who are entitled and need to knock it off. But we did very, very rapidly. The team really pulled together and very, very inhumanly, ridiculously quickly put together what was by far the most sophisticated smart contract of the time, might still be, and got it shipped just within a few months. And that headed off this problem that there was, well, people were just outright fraudulently claiming they could defraud our blockchain at that time, which also wasn't helpful because we had very real concerns that it might actually be possible to do that. And people were just outright lying, claiming that they could, which was just fraudulent in that case. But we also had this problem that there was a mining pool that was not using our pooling protocol, that was using their own completely 100% insecure protocol that they made up, that was terrible and was in danger of getting more than 50% on our blockchain. And so we had to ship everything really fast just for that reason, if nothing else, while people were abusively attacking me constantly. And that was horrible. So anyway, that should have been more celebratory, I guess, because price was high at the time, but then started crashing down. But that was not fun. I'm always telling everybody don't hit prematurely because that's just bad. And sometimes you can't avoid it. So I'm gonna I'm going to try to roll out Chia Gaming in a reasonable way. We'll see if I manage to pull that off. I'm not worried about it hitting. I'm worried about it hitting before it's ready.
Sounds good. Vishal, how about you? What has been the most difficult moment for you, and how was it overcome?
Yeah, I think the difficult moment in some sense continues, and that moment is the realization I had about 6 months being in the company, which is about 4 years back, and realizing that the things that are obvious to us and that are proven about our technology and our capability um, are not obvious to others. And what is been that continuous journey is to notice that all the noise that is created around the blockchain industry and the claims around security and how you do insecure things, but yet you claim everything is great and sure, you can run billions of dollars in business on these kind of chains. That has been a difficult moment when I saw that happening. I think what we've done to overcome is what one would recommend, whether you're kids or running a big company, to overcome, which is you check your vision for, correctness, right? Do I still believe this is what we should be doing and are capable of doing? And then you execute. And I couldn't be more proud of the Chia team and the community that they have kept their heads down and executed. And to me, that is something uh, that has been a challenge, but I continue to be proud of.
Just keep building.
Indeed.
As you look forward to the next 5 years, how do you see the ecosystem developing, and what are you most excited for?
So I am excited for a kind of financial community to become something that's really grown on the chain. We have a great kind of base case of that where people are interested in these new opportunities. But, I often joke that in almost every other blockchain, you are the yield because you can't explain where the money comes from. On the Chia blockchain, Microsoft fanboys and Apple fanboys are going to be the yield. And we all know where that money comes from. And taking that and doing more sophisticated and advanced things in I mean, I'll use the term the industry uses DeFi, but I don't think it's really DeFi. I think it's finance. I think
Mhm.
it's taking finance to a whole new place. And I think that the tools and the assets on the Chia blockchain are going to really drive that. Now, I don't think that's going to be the only community that grows on the Chia blockchain. Do not get me wrong, but I think that there's this really interesting opportunity for people to uh, take the cost of ETFs out of their investments. I mean, they can build their own ETF personally in their Chia wallet. It's those kinds of things that I think are very, very powerful. And that base is going to lead to other things coming online too. So, I think that helps the art market on Chia. I think it helps the gaming market on Chia. And I think there's a lot of crossover from people who like play poker at night, but also want to customize an S&P 500 index fund of their own, pulling exactly what they want of those elements and putting those as cats in their Chia wallet.
I think from my perspective, it's really the rails. So let me just go back, right? When we announced One Market, when we said we're an enterprise platform, what we said was you will be able to build a market that is on 24/7. That you can do peer-to-peer trading anytime, anywhere. That is something when you build it right, then that one market thing that Gene's been talking about over the last year in earnest just says, okay, now you have the rails. So whether you do it for one asset class or you do it for multiple asset classes, it is the same set of rails. And now you will be able to go back to the business white paper and say, yes, I can take a share of a stock and buy a cup of coffee, and all of that just happens.
And I'd only interject a better share of stock because now you can more specifically choose
Yes,
your exposure to Apple, your exposure to Broadcom.
that's true.
So,
What about you, Bram?
Bram?
As you look to the next 5 years, how do you see the ecosystem developing, and what are you most excited to see?
Um, the well, we have a pretty straight line because I'm talking about things that, are on the cusp of shipping, right? So they'll ship and then they'll evolve. So we've got Permuto going out, so we're going to see a lot more financial products going out that are going to be very, very boring, right? Like the crypto businesses that look like regular businesses these days are just like trading platforms and such. And so we're going to have that, but much more distributed and much more sophisticated in terms of what it can do. And where you don't have everything just relying on a trusted intermediary, which is good on all kinds of levels. One of them being that it's much easier to innovate and add functionality when it's enforced by smart coins, rather than relying on the trusted intermediary to add that functionality and then just crossing your fingers that they'll continue to support it as long as you want to, keep using it. Um, so we're going to see a lot of that happening, and it's going to be kind of boring from a general public standpoint. Finance people will get excited about it, but accountants aren't known for partying in ways that everybody else gets excited about. But then we'll also have the other side of the house here, which is Chia Gaming, which is going to be much more exciting, or at least fun, that people will actually be gaming. So that's going to be great. There's going to be a lot of that going on, a much more expansion in that space after just the initial getting it out at all. And I think we're going to have a bit of a refocus in many ways in that we've been doing like all this consensus algorithm stuff for the new proof of space. And that's just going to be done. We're going to have much, much less of that after the end of this year. And it will rapidly fade into memory as people, this historical footnote that this all happened. And people will just kind of forget about it. And it will just chug along as an engine that just chugs along and keeps chugging along and works great. Um, and then we're going to have, I cross my fingers, I hope, the ability to actually put resources into some of these much more basic, boring things that we have plans already for a much more sophisticated custody system and also a payment channel network, which involves trading of stuff, which will hopefully be dragged along as the financial side, the financialization side of the house improves. That will give us the excuse to build this really great um, payment channel network where people can trade between asset classes in real time. So I think that will all happen, certainly within 5 years. 5 years is a lot of time. This is kind of the roadmap, and that's plenty enough time for that to really start happening. I should maybe be a little more optimistic because uh, AI coding enhancements are very real. So some of these things that I was thinking we might get to in like 2 or 3 years, maybe we can get to them later this year. We'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah, I'd only add that if you haven't followed Bram enough, boring in his category here is boring to the tune of hundreds of billions to more dollars on chain and real market demand for block space, which is the key piece. But it's boring in the sense that yes, major institutions park their money and make money on the Chia blockchain.
It's yeah, it's exciting in the money coming in way. It's like exciting in the way my classmates in high school wanted to go work in finance.
All right. Well, thank you all for participating in this roundtable. It's great to hear your perspective over the last 5 years and into the future, talking a lot about what we've been building at Chia. Um, but our community has done a lot of their own projects as well, and part of our focus in the celebration is to celebrate our community developers. And we recently reached out to a few of them to get some interviews, and we put a video together. So we're gonna go to that now and hear from a couple of our community developers on the projects that they have been working on. All right, today we are talking with Orel. You might know him in the community as Ilran. He is a developer that has been working on a lot of different projects in recent years, and most recently doing a really cool blue boxing project. And so we just wanted to have him on and talk to him about it. So Orel, if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what brought you to Chia.
Hi everyone, thanks for the invitation. Yes, so I'm a 15 years software engineer. I discovered Chia in 2021 at the launch of the mainnet. And yeah, I really fall in love with the blockchain because it's a better vision of how to do a good blockchain.
Nice. So 2021. So you've been here pretty much since the beginning. How was your experience been kind of being here from the beginning, kind of how it's evolved over time through the ups and the downs? What has been kind of your driving your continued interest?
I mainly played with the market, with creating offers, scripting a lot to do a bit some market making. I created a lot of NFTs too, like maybe art for everyone. I try to send art picture to everybody at some point. Yeah. Yeah, and for a long time, I wanted to participate more and to create some application or some website.
So tell us a little bit about the projects that you've worked on.
So yeah, so the block compaction is here for from the beginning. Yeah, and I wanted to do that for a long time. In fact, I already did it. But this time I thought it's a bit complex to use because you need to set up a full node, you need to set up the specific Blowbox client on some other machine. And if you have multiple machines to compact and compactify, it was not really, how to say, friendly to use. Yeah. So that's exactly the point I wanted to help. So to build a tool that is just one click for anybody, and also something that people can follow the progress to see their impact, to see what they are doing. Yeah, it was definitely that the idea.
What were some of the challenges that you faced when developing?
I mean, the idea was clear, the target was clear. At the beginning, I wanted to do that only for myself, just for me or a few friends to yeah contribute to the compaction. But yeah, well, finally, when I found the group algorithm to compactify even faster, yeah, this time I knew that I had to share it and that we could do something together, maybe fast. And so the biggest challenge, in fact, yeah, was not creating the project, but it was after. It was when the hype raised instantly, and so I was extremely surprised by that. Yeah, I expected like 15% participate. Yeah, well, we were more than 300, and the first hour we were maybe, I don't know, 80 or something like that. So I didn't plan my backend and my server to support that. Yeah.
But encouraging though, right? To have such interest in a project that you've been working on your own and hoping that some people would be interested in it, but like to have that kind of influx of interest is probably very encouraging.
Yeah, that was awesome. The reaction of the community is definitely awesome, and especially very thanks to Jean that after maybe 2 hours after the release, he started to code, he started to create the CI and the macOS port. So yeah, that was incredible.
How has the process of developing things on Chia improved over the years or changed over the years? Has that changed a lot? And has it become easier? What's been your experience?
I didn't really use directly Chia Lisp and the low-level feature of Chia. So I was mainly using for example, the RPC bridge for any market making or that kind of stuff. Yeah, or NFT creation. This was the main things I used. But yeah, finally, what makes everything easier recently, it's vibe coding. I can mix up any project. I can take the code of the full node and ask the agent to modify anything, to modify how do I gossip the compact proof. Yeah, the revolution is definitely here. Open source code becomes a material, and this is crazy.
Is there anything that you would like to say as kind of to the community that maybe you wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to?
Yeah, no, just want to say the community is awesome. The developer, everybody is awesome, definitely. Chia is holding because people are building on it and keep faith and keep contributing. So yeah, that's awesome.
I'm Jeff, known as Dracatus Online. I'd say about 4 or 5 years ago, I discovered NFTs and I really wanted to learn about blockchain, this new technology. So, jumped in like any self-respecting nerd, just get your feet wet. So yeah, it kind of kept me in Chia until I got to know the community and then meet some of the founders. And I've been here ever since. I've really enjoyed the tech and the community. So
My name is Jose Luis Denis, also known as Mr. Dennis as my developer name. And I'm with Chia since Mainnet. It has been very fun for me. It's like playing games, just like developing.
Awesome. And so you guys have been part of the community since the beginning, kind of since Mainnet, about 5 years ago. This is our 5 year anniversary. What has been your experience with the technology from kind of where it started then to where it is now?
well, it's been a delight. There's been a lot of growth. It's been really nice to be a part of it or alongside of it. Everything from Chia vaults that we have now, the simplicity of offer files and the power of them, NFT Standard One coming out and being there for all of that has been it's been a point of pride for me in my life for sure as a developer. It's something that I know whether 20 years from now or whatever, I'll look back very fondly on being a part of and being on the right side of blockchain history, as it were.
So you guys have worked on a number of projects over the years. Do you have any projects that you're particularly proud of that you'd like to highlight?
Yeah, from my perspective, one of the projects that I like the most is GLS Playground because it has a lot of examples that I I think they are going to be very valuable for other developers because sometimes it's hard to get into the GLIPS paradigm or this kind of contract. So this project is like to the community. I want to give them back something to be more easily to adapt to this kind of ecosystem.
Yeah, that brings up an interesting topic of kind of the complexity of development and kind of where it started. Obviously, Chia Lisp is a lot different than other programming languages that people are used to. And so there was a big challenge kind of early on. And there still is a challenge, but there's been a lot of work like to simplify it, both on the Chia side and from community developers like you and building these tools that help people learn. What's your perspective of the challenge of development started to where it is today?
Oh, night and day difference. Night and day difference. Rigidity's work with Rue has completely changed my approach to Chia Lisp, where, generally and historically, I'll take on any syntactical challenge. It's like, sure, let's go. As I get a little older and the memory starts, it doesn't absorb as quick. And so as much as I've wanted to pick up Chia Lisp at the point in my career that I'm at, the life and the busy, kids and all that, it's not as easy to carve out the time to really pick up something like Chia Lisp, with all of its complexities. I recently started using Root, and I have to say I am so excited because now I feel like to have that extra tooling. I mean, it's a night and day difference where before I would take the approach of not my thing. I understand. I know what I don't know, and I'll go see the people that do know. But now at least I'm willing to experiment, and I can at least have a more intelligent conversation with Yakihito or Rigidity or somebody when I'm talking about Chia Lisp. I've got a little more of just the nuance and the grounding to it. So it's from a use case, tenfold use. And then just from an accessible knowledge base, like I'll definitely study Chia List more this year because of tools like Rue.
It really is cool to see the community develop the tools as well to say, hey, we have gone through the pain of developing on with just Chia Lisp. Some things need to be fixed. Some things need to be better. And
Expected.
yeah, they've taken upon themselves to make it better, which is really the kind of the ethos of open source
Yeah.
software. So
Yeah. Yeah. The community lives open source. I mean, this community really lives that methodology or mentality, which is really great. Yeah.
awesome. So your latest project, let's talk a little bit about that.
So the project is basically a plat. We're trying to build a platform to wrap around this protocol, so we can give a place where people can really go, find games to play with other people, find a community that they like, a platform that they like, and have access still to all the other players around the world. We're going to build, a platform that brings tournaments and a lot of different games and the social interaction and all that community based stuff that really needs to be the driver behind gaming if we're really going to make this succeed in adoption. So it's really, if to put it in a nutshell, it's a platform for essentially, I mean, anybody who builds for the gaming protocol, you're building a platform for onboarding, because the connection is handled with the peer-to-peer, and really it's about the extra features that you're going to bring. They're going to want people to come back and use the system over and over, use the protocol over and over. So we're really focused on talking with the community and figuring out what kind of games they want, what kind of features they want, and we're hopefully going to wrap that around in a really nice platform that's going to deliver the protocol in an attractive, effective way. Yeah.
As you look towards like the future of Chia in general, what excites you about the future?
I look forward to all the tech. I look forward to what Bermuda is going to do. I look forward to what Chia Vaults brings. I look forward to the adoption of offer files, the simplest little thing in the world that it seems like the world doesn't understand or know about. And so I'm really looking forward to that moment that I know, at least in my gut, is coming for Chia and the world of blockchain. And so to be a part of that in any way, making projects for it, getting to know, the team at Chia, doing my own thing. It's really, I'm optimistic. I can tell you that, where I'm quite maybe pessimistic about the rest of the blockchain industry. And I'm trying to say that politely because I don't want to discourage that the industry is bad, but I just don't see sustainable practices being, executed everywhere like I do with Chia. So for me, the future seems viable, sustainable, and exciting with Chia, where those are all question marks on the other blockchains. So
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this and talking about your project and your kind of history with Chia. It's really cool to hear from the community and the developers in the community, and I look forward to all the stuff that you work on in the future.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks
for
for
your help.
having us.
Yeah.
I did start get into Chia like most people, I guess, by just stumbling over it in 2021 and then just try to start my own little farm as quick as possible since there was a big interest in that network. But I'm a software developer, so I was just naturally interested in what can I build on top of this blockchain. That's how Mint Garden came to be. Mint Garden is not only a platform where you can discover and trade NFTs, but also, and I think that's still the most important part, you can mint them very easily. It is surprisingly difficult to mint those NFTs yourself, or let's say it's you can do it, but there's a lot of pitfalls, and that was always one of the core missions of Mint Garden to make that experience as simple and easy as possible so that not only tech savvy people are able to create those non fungible tokens, but anybody can. Anybody that has artwork or all kinds of digital media can embed that in the blockchain and then offer it, trade it, and use it.
How has the the ecosystem changed from then to now?
Well, in the beginning, there was a frenzy, and I think those people that were there, we all can remember on how fast the net space grew and how quickly this whole ecosystem exploded with people trying out things and plotting was very tedious. So a lot of development effort also went into the whole farming aspect of this blockchain. So let's say the first era was the farmers. The farmers, everything was farming and plotting and the infrastructure around it and all that. Next were the very simple primitives, both cats and then NFTs. NFTs launched in mid 2022, so that was when that kicked off. But that was kind of the same as in the beginning of farming. Everything was a little bit tedious and hard to do, and so it was not as smooth as it is today to get launched with big collections, for example, or things like that. And then from there, it grew more into a mature ecosystem, I think. And I guess the last year or so, or year and a half, it was very much focused on this idea of Chia being the place where financial transactions will happen and where the big entities and also smaller entities trading the things that were issued by big entities was going to happen. So that also something that where my focus shifted a little bit away from or not only focusing on this retail aspect or the small and a small end user aspect of NFTs, more into this. I would say mostly discoverability or analytics of what's happening on chain, what is happening in regards of trades that happen, things that get stored and where and by whom, and auxiliary services or associated services like inspection, like analytics, like observability. It's going to be very interesting this year to see.
So let's talk about some of the project that you've done in that arena. I believe one of your projects is surrounding vaults and the information about vaults. Can you talk a little bit about that project?
I call it Vault Scanner. The idea behind that is with the cloud wallet, Chia Network has released a application or the first application that actually relies on this concept of a vault. So naturally, this is a very interesting technology, and it's also naturally something where I at least expect most of the value to be stored in. So as a first perspective into that, the vault scanner basically goes through the chain and tries to discover all the vaults that are in existence today, and also figure out what kinds of assets they store and how much.
So let's talk about some of your other projects. You are kind of the mind behind Mint Garden, and which has been kind of a project that has existed pretty much since the NFT standard has come out. What are some of your recent developments in that in that project?
So there's one big one that people have been asking about for quite a while, and I recently released that to the public, so you might have heard of it, and that's Sage support for the Mint Garden Studio. So, for those that don't know, the Mint Garden Studio is a desktop application that you can install on your machine, and that talks to your Chia wallet that is installed on the same machine. And in the past, that was the Chia reference wallet, and it still can be used for that. But today, a lot of users want to use the Sage wallet, and in order to make that easier for users, Mint Garden Studio now also allows you to connect to your Sage wallet and use that to mint NFTs. And naturally, that's gonna, or that is something that helps a lot of people to mint, especially larger collections or with wallets that have a lot of activity, because that's not that was in the past something where the reference wallet was struggling, and this is now much more stable using the Sage integration.
This is maybe an opportunity for you to speak directly to the community as a whole. Is there anything that you would like to say or express to the community?
I think I'd like to say go try things out. And not just try things, try to develop things, also try the things that are being built, but also try building things and try to speak to people that are building things to find out how you can either help or how you can build something adjacent. And especially now with AI assistance, I hope that we will see more development in the space going forward. There's still a lot to be done, or still a lot that we need to do to be the platform that we want to be a serious platform where serious things happen and also fun things. But to build that, we need builders, and it's great to see that there are still builders around that are trying things. Shout out to Drag, shout out to Michael Taylor and Yak and Brandon and others. And if you need anything for that, if you need tips or tricks or things or ideas that you could work on or other things, just let me know. And I'm excited to build this chain with you all.
And with that, thank you for taking the time to sit down for this interview. And we look forward to the continued development on all of your projects and what you do in the future.
Thanks for having me, and happy anniversary.
Was always great to hear from community developers and what they're doing. And I think one of my biggest takeaways in talking to them was just their passion for the stuff that they're doing and their desire to see other developers also do really cool things on the chain. So if you take anything from it, an encouragement to do development, and a lot of them mentioned, and a lot of our Bram I think mentioned as well, the AI tools are really helpful in like amplifying your ability to do that kind of development. So I think that's really cool. So I'm going to hand it back over to Gene to kind of close us out. And I just want to thank everyone for joining our celebration. And take it away, Gene.
Certainly. So I think what's exciting is that for the next year, and it's one more year to the next halving, we're really going to see the delivery of a whole bunch of these things. And some of these things may not be immediately as big as you might worry them to be, but they are the incremental increases in credibility, revenue, cash flow, of total assets on chain that really drive the future of the Chia blockchain. And I was asked the other day, what's the goal of CNI? And in some ways, what's the goal of Chia? And I said the answer is very simple, is to fill the blocks with high value transactions. And that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And we like that. We want to see all sorts of different items and pieces at a serious level. It's, is it worth $10 on chain to do that in the future? But also, those things that aren't worth $10 on chain are perfectly worth it when you're in a payment channel or a gaming channel or a trading channel. So, we're just really excited that we're able to finally bring a whole bunch of these really impactful things, deliver them to the public on chain and start building, frankly, generational businesses.
All right. Well, with that, again, thank you everyone for joining us for the celebration. We hope you guys have a great day, and we look forward to all the things that you guys create on the Chia blockchain. And we'll see you next year for our 6th anniversary. All right. Take care, everyone.